kid connects deeply with A Course in Miracles because it explores self-concept, childhood conditioning, self-rejection, forgiveness, and the healing that occurs when the mind stops attacking itself through time. Russ Duritz, played by Bruce Willis, is outwardly successful, but internally defended, lonely, irritated, and emotionally disconnected. In ACM terms, he has built a highly functional ego identity. The ego often compensates for unresolved pain through control, achievement, sarcasm, busyness, or emotional distance. Russ appears competent, but his life lacks warmth and genuine joining. Then the impossible happens. He meets his younger self. That is profoundly ACIM-like symbolically, because ACIM constantly teaches that the present personality is built from unresolved interpretations of the past. The kid is not merely a magical plot device. He represents the frozen self-concept Russ never truly examined. The younger Rusty carries shame, insecurity, loneliness, fear of rejection, disappointment about what life becomes. And adult Russ cannot stand him at first. That's psychologically honest. Many people reject their younger selves internally because childhood vulnerability threatens the adult identity structure. The ego often builds itself specifically to avoid re-experiencing earlier helplessness or pain. So Russ attacks the child with embarrassment, impatience, and denial. ACM would say this is self-attack projected across time. The ego maintains itself partly through disowning aspects of the mind it considers weak, needy, awkward, or unworthy. But the healing begins when Russ gradually stops trying to escape the child and starts listening. That's forgiveness in the ACM sense. Not what happened was good, but I no longer need to maintain war against this part of myself. The movie beautifully shows how identity gets formed through interpretation. Young Rusty believes certain childhood humiliations define who he is forever. Adult Russ is still unconsciously living from those conclusions decades later. That is classic ACIM. The Course repeatedly says the ego uses the past to manufacture continuity. This happened to me, therefore this is who I am. But the interpretation, not the event itself, becomes the prison. There's also a strong ACM theme around success. Russ achieved the external life the ego promised would bring fulfillment: career, money, status, control. Yet internally he feels emotionally malnourished. ACM constantly points toward this. The ego's goals cannot satisfy because they were designed to stabilize separation identity, not restore peace. The ego says, once I become enough, I'll feel whole. But the underlying self-rejection remains untouched. Then there's the airplane revelation. Young Rusty's dream was simply to become a pilot, to fly. Adult Russ abandoned that aliveness somewhere along the way in exchange for becoming successful. That's spiritually significant. ACM distinguishes between function and role. Roles are socially constructed: career identities, performances, status structures. Function is deeper, the living extension of joy, communication, creativity, healing, or love. Russ lost contact with that. The child still remembers. That's why the younger self becomes a guide rather than merely a memory. Children in ACIM-like symbolism often represent the unburied vitality beneath ego adaptation, not because childhood itself is enlightenment. Children also absorb fear and conditioning, but because the original aliveness has not yet been fully armored over. There's also a profound ACIM element involving time. The movie collapses past and present into direct encounter. Russ realizes he has not actually left his childhood behind psychologically. He has been carrying it continuously. ACIM would say the past survives only through present identification. Healing occurs now, not by changing history, but by changing the meaning carried forward. And importantly, the movie does not heal Russ through achievement. No external victory resolves him. Healing happens relationally, through honesty, vulnerability, reconnection, softening, presence. That aligns closely with ACIM's movement away from self-construction toward joining. The film also wisely avoids simplistic positivity. Russ does not suddenly become spiritually perfect. He remains flawed, defensive, human, but the rigidity starts dissolving. That's often what healing actually looks like. Less armor, less self-hatred, less compulsive control, more availability to life. And perhaps the deepest ACM resonance in the kid is this: adult Russ spends years trying to become someone acceptable enough to escape his pain. But the real miracle begins when he stops abandoning the child who believed he was never enough in the first place.